A warm welcome to Business Daily right here on Trust Television. I am Yusuf Akogu. Let's take the business top stories. Glad to have you back. Now we go to the stock market to give you a highlight of the stock trading as it went down on Monday on the floor of the Nigerian stock market. Of course, was another bullish day for the NJS at the all-share index appreciated by 0.4%. Of course, about 156 billion naira were added to the market cap yesterday at the close of business. Called 391.013 million volume of shares, value at 7.705 billion in the deals of 6,837 exchange hands among investors on Monday. Of course, let's look at the top traded equities. Of course, Thomas Watt actually gained 10% yesterday to close at 4 naira and 7 kobo. Sham PLC also closing 9.90%, a positive day for them as well, to close at 2 naira and 22 kobo per share. Of course, GlaxoSmithKline, one of the company that is set to leave Nigeria, of course, also still trading strongly there, 9.68% to close at 13 naira and 60 kobo per shares. Of course, the year-to-date of the market has moderated to about 37%. Let's look at the top losing equity. ABC Transports on the losing side today, 9.30% to close at 78 kobo per shares. Cornerstone Insurance, 9.27% to close downward at 1 naira and 37 kobo per shares. And of course, Champions Breweries, it was here yesterday, still on the same level today, 9.19%, I beg your pardon, to close at 3 naira and 36 kobo per shares. Let's look at the activity chart and see how the company traded. United Bank for Africa, UBA, did about 106 million volume of shares yesterday. FBN Holdings, the mother company of First Bank, 33.3 million volume of shares. And of course, Japan Gold and Ventures, 21.3 million volume of its shares were traded yesterday by investors of that company. Let's look at the sectorial performance, quite a whole lot. The banking sector, 0.66% positive. The industrial sector, 1.83%. The consumer goods is down 0.18%. The oil and gas sector is back again on the activity. Today, that sector for more than 2 weeks was dormant, not really much activities in that sector. 2.31% it gained, the biggest gainer of the day. Of course, the insurance sector is down 2.19%, the biggest loser of the day. Let's look at the rest of Africa and see, of course, it's all green in Africa, 0.06% in Joburg. In Ghana is 0.38%, and of course in Nairobi 0.55%. So the highlight of stock trading as it went down on the continent of Africa on Monday. Of course, we'll continue to give you update right here on Business Daily. But for now, we're going to go on a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about issues around transportation sector in Nigeria. How can we revolutionize that sector using the electric motor vehicle system? Don't go away.
never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not about you in itself.
Let me finish.
Because there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No, it's about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who are not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? All those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid attention, significant attention to gas.
To do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its higher horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for jam, they want to go to higher institutions.
But just a short while ago, you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
Glad to have you back. It's the Business Daily right here on Trust Television. Now we go into our discussion and we're looking at how we can actually revolutionize the Nigerian transport sector using the electric motor vehicle. Of course, with the changes, of course, the increase in the price of crude oil, there is quite a whole lot of options that people are actually considering. And one of that option, a lot of people talk about CNG. There's also talk about EVC, electric motor system. We're looking at that today and how this can also be applied to our taxi system. I have in the studio Mr. Kingsley Eze is the founder and CEO of Nairazi. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's see. How possible do you think this can work in a system like Nigeria, where even the power supply is not even strong enough?
Electric mobility is very revolutionizing. It's a great technology, and that's where the world is heading to. So even with the unreliable power sector we have in Nigeria, I think we have to think of alternative ways of generating electricity for this type of system. Nigeria is abundant when it comes to solar resources. We have sunshine here. For example, in a city like Abuja, sunshine is very abundant. So I think for the charging station, which is the main hitch, which is where will these electric vehicles, where are you going to charge it? What if you run out of battery charge or power? How are you going to move the vehicle? So I believe that we can station like electric mini grids, around cities to be able to service this type of infrastructure.
All right, which one should come first? Getting the electricity rights or getting the electric vehicle?
I think it's like a chicken and egg problem, but you have to force yourself to adapt to change. So I believe the rational thing to do is to have the charging infrastructure right. But I believe the cost savings that come to electric vehicle owners, especially for people in the transport sector like ourselves, if you have the vehicles first, it's going to stimulate, even private investors to now say, okay, fine, we have a demand for this charging infrastructure, and they can now go ahead and provide such services. So I believe that we should have let the cars be available first. I'm sure that the charging infrastructure is going to come alongside. Okay,
so the car can be available. They'll be dormant anyway. Let's look at the issue of some of the benefits.
Yes.
There's going to be a cut down on carbon emissions.
Yes, sure.
There's the issue of lowering costs and, of course, paving way for a greener future for Nigeria. Yes. What do you have to say about that?
The benefits for electric mobility is endless. First and first, the environment will have ourselves. We're going to thank thank ourselves for switching. Second thing is there will be less pressure on our forex, because obviously you're just servicing the vehicle with power. There is less moving parts. It's even cheaper to produce, to assemble when you look at it on the grand scheme of things. There are less moving parts for the owners. You have less things to worry about in terms of oil change because of less mechanical parts in these vehicles. The second thing again is that there will be less pressure on petrol. We see fuel subsidy as a big problem right now. By the time you get off petrol, at least 40%, 50% of cars in Nigeria is electric. It's going to really reduce that pressure on petrol. Yes, there will still be vehicles that will be serviced by this, but when you have an energy mix, let's say 20-30% of the vehicles in Nigeria is electric, do the maths, 20% of how much we're spending on petrol. Finally, you talked about the environment. Emission is zero emission. Every country is targeting, let's say, 2040, 2050 for their zero emission target. So having these electric vehicles in the mix will help us to achieve net zero emission.
You talk about petrol. I'm curious because Nigeria depend largely on crude oil for about 90% of our revenue.
Yes.
And then moving away from that, from crude oil, from petrol to EVC, now as the case may be, don't you think that will affect the government revenue? Do you think government is really sincere in implementing this program?
Right now, to answer that question, yes, it looks as if we're going to be we're going to receive the shorter end of the stick. But the truth is that this is where the world is heading to. All right, you can't depend. It's just like people that were trading horses before the cars came. All right, so the cars came and the horse market died down. Right now, people keep horses for recreational purposes. So if you know that advanced societies, they are already planning towards this aspect, this policy, you have to go in line with that. There will still be markets for exports of petrol. We have other not so rich African countries that would obviously import petrol from us. There is also other uses of petrol apart from just powering mobility. So I believe that market will still be sustained, but the benefit we are going to get by transitioning or by making concrete plans to transition alongside advanced society will outweigh whatever we will lose.
Okay, you made mention earlier that this is going to reduce pressure on Naira. I was going to ask how, because some of these vehicles are going to be imported.
Yes, the vehicles are going to be imported, but also remember that we have a very resilient automobile sector in Nigeria. And the technology, or if you're into the car business, you can make your research. It's actually super easy to assemble electric vehicles. So to transition most of our current manufacturing capacity of cars in Nigeria, you have, I don't need to mention names here, great car companies. So if they see that there's a market for electric mobility, they can adapt their factory systems to be able to produce this in-house. Remember the jobs it's going to create, and it's going to push the boundaries of our innovation as a society forward. Because if we relax that, okay, fine, we'll continue, Nigeria will become the dumping ground for all this internal combustion engine. And while you're producing an electric car, you can discover, okay, you can use this same knowledge for other parts, to produce other things in the grand scheme of the society. So let's not find a way to be dormant. Let's try to push the boundaries with the world in a very structural manner. Just gradually, you can decide to say 10% of cars that we're using for mobility can be electric. Let's not join the world, advanced society that want to do 100%. But I believe that 10% will push our economy forward.
Interesting. You made mention of a structural structure there, and if you look at some of those people advocating for this electric vehicle, most of them are actually from the private sector. The government involvement as it is right now is very, very minimal, though they are actually proposing that they will create some centers where some of these vehicles can actually be charged. But do you think how long do you think that is going to take us? Because you made mention of we came into 10%
Yes.
of it instead of maybe 100 or even 50%. How long do you think that is going to take? It's something that is going to take a while.
Okay. I feel like this is the area where the National Automotive Design Council, they've been really doing a lot of work. They've been trying to advocate, they've been trying to showcase companies that are really coming up with this electric mobility concept. Also, you have private players. Sterling Bank, they just launched Core, where you see access to the financing. Because another thing again is the cost of the vehicle itself. A car might cost you like $40,000 to get a brand new electric car, while you can get a normal internal combustion engine vehicle for $20,000. So almost 2 times the cost. So you have private players in the banking sector coming up with financing. Then you also have the government structured agencies like the Nigerian Automotive Design Council that have been, trying to promote this concept. So I believe like it has to be like a joint hand in glove kind of relationship between the private sector and government agencies that are that have the moral right to champion this transition, to work together to make sure that we don't it's not far-fetched. It's going to be achieved in the shortest possible time.
So now let's talk about the cost now of getting this vehicle. Like you said, it's quite expensive to get. And then the kind of country that we have, even our taxi drivers are not that so buoyant.
Yes,
do you think they are actually positioned or even ready to go into this market?
If you go to every part of the world, what you notice is that government, private, like I said before, in China, for example, you have like, I think it's like $8,000 as subsidy. So if the car is $40,000, $8,000 is already $32,000. So you already have that. And also incentive, okay, if you can't drive internal combustion engine vehicles to the city center, you are paying to park. But if you have an electric car, so these are little policies that help. Now, in China, you still have like private banks that will give access to auto loans to make sure that the cost of ownership is not so strenuous or rigorous for.
But that is China. We don't have that kind of system here.
Of course, when you see what is working, the thing now is for us to now adopt such kinds of systems, which is government subsidies and access to finance by the private sector. And also even the car companies too can run promotions. There's no reason why you can't see car companies or private players like ourselves and say, okay, fine, to get, users or to get, the citizens acclimatized with such kinds of technology, let's have like 10 electric cars, move people, let them get to see how because most people, they have like misconception about electric vehicles. Some think the thing will blow up. Some think it's not like a regular car. It won't run very fast. So people need to still see these cars in actions, and it will stimulate the market.
When you're relying on government policies or even bringing DBMs inside, don't you think that is going to be a tall order, given the kind of system that we have here?
It's a tall order, but it's not insurmountable. All right? I feel like that is, because that's the only way it can work. A taxi driver would not manufacture money to be able to afford it. So if we are going to continue with our cash and carry type of economy, which this current administration, if you listen to the president, he said that that's even the reason why corruption is being perpetuated. Because Nigeria, you must have 100% for your house, 100% for your car, 100% for everything. There's no credit system in Nigeria. So access to credit is really, because that's how economy runs. If you're waiting for everybody to have 100% of the money to buy things, you have a stagnant economy. So if you have like a the database system, you're able to identify that these are genuine consumers, whether they are salary earners or taxi drivers, they have, you can monitor how much they are making, and you match it up with the loan tenor, and they can pay for it. Why don't you go
What about
ahead
the interest rates? is also very high. In some of these developed countries that you mentioned, the interest rate are just under, they are one digit.
Yes,
they're 1 digit, but exactly. But here is double digit, over 27% in some banks.
With the new restructuring, I don't know if I'm apologetic to this current administration, but I feel like a lot of things are already going in the right direction. So by the time we clear the backlogs of Forex, by the time we are able to start manufacturing and consuming our own fuel, refineries are working, there's going to be a lot of pool of cash. And when there is pool of cash, banks are forced to lend it out. Do you understand? So I believe the single digit interest, at least Bank of Industry, they are doing 9% for some segments of.
But the difficulties you go through to assess some of those.
So when there is more, that 9% can go around. I believe so.
All right. You did deal directly with taxi drivers because of the company you run. What feelers are you getting from them? How ready are they to embrace this EVS that we're talking about?
For taxi drivers, they are simple people. They are one of the most simple group of people to work with because, one, they want a reliable car. They want to spend less to maintain those vehicles. So if you're able to meet up, which the electric cars will be able to meet up with, because the cars, yes, it is more expensive upfront, but by the time you run the total cost of ownership in 5 years, you're going to see that it's actually cheaper to have electric vehicles. So they are ready to take these vehicles if the right conditions are met. We talked about charging infrastructure. We talked about access to credit and government policies that would make everything. You need to steer your citizens to the right direction, and I believe policies is what gets that job done.
All right. Let's look at the locations now where you can actually get this thing. Mostly some of this program usually start from Lagos to Port Harcourt to Abuja, maybe to Kano, and then some other part, then to the rest of the country. Yes. Do you think the whole Nigeria, the whole country, all the states are actually ready to embrace this EVS that we're talking about, given the current reality that we have on the ground?
Look at my fingers. They are not equal, all right? So I believe, like you mentioned, there are some states that would be in the best position to go first.
State like Lagos.
Right? Lagos is ripe for it. You have a robust population. You have access to a bit of infrastructure. Abuja is also great for it. In fact, Abuja should be the best place for it. Wide roads, less congestion and everything, and is the city capital of, is our state capital for Nigeria. So I believe Abuja and other states, like you mentioned, will come, phase by phase. So by the time they see the success here, then other states could come on board.
What about the insurance for these vehicles? Or are they not prone to accident just like every other vehicles?
Insurance companies will want to insure like these vehicles too.
With the kind of insurance system that we have in Nigeria. Yeah. Because I'm curious, because when you're comparing us to the Western world, where they have a system that is working, then I tend to look at the kind of system that we run here. It's difficult to get things work here.
No, like insurance companies, I'm sure they get on board. They insure normal vehicles, so they will have the same incentives to insure electric vehicles too. Yes.
All right. Let's look at PPP. Especially the private and of course the government in this regard. Do you think that is the right way to go, or do many people have advocated for it?
Yeah, PPP always works because PPP, like you said, is a relationship between the public and the private sector. I feel like that's the best way you can get things going. You match up the dynamism of the private sector and the structure of the public sector. So these two things work amazingly. So that's the best way to go.
All right, finally, as we wrap up now, don't you think that is getting some of these manufacturing companies to come in here, establish their plant here, and produce some of these vehicles here will be more profitable to Nigerian economy?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Getting new players.
What effort do you think government should make in that regard?
Policies. By the time manufacturers, they want to make sales. Tesla, they are in China. They are in China because they know if we are here, they will make sales. So in Nigeria, if they see that government is steering the citizens to go electric, they will fall in line. They will make up their... And what I'm actually saying is, let's not even bank on people that will come in. There are people here that are already playing. let's try and incentivize the electric mobility sector that will make them to really, structure their own production line. They can start doing, okay, 80% of our vehicles is ICE cars, 20% is electric.
So sorry, just finally again, just sorry for cutting you there. Just as we wrap now in 30 seconds now, what kind of incentive do you think government should give to the local manufacturers? Tax waiver, holiday or tax waiver?
Yeah. It starts from the tax waiver, probably import duty waiver for some of the components of these vehicles. Two of them, I think, is a great thing.
All right, Kingsley Eze, founder, CEO of Nairazi, I must thank you for your time on business.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we appreciate your time. All right, with that is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akogun.